3, y to the 0. Which one do I have to think of moving? Well, what is y to the 0 equal to? 1. So in the back, I know that this has to be equal to 1. Okay? So Andrea, I'm going to look at the 4 to the 1. Should I move it or keep it in the numerator? Keep it in the numerator. That's going to be 4 to the 1 or just 4, right? If I'm looking at it, Kira, what's going to happen with my x to the negative 3? Move it to the denominator, so I'm kind of doing reciprocal and make it x to the third. So this answer, 4 to the 1 times 1 is just 4 over x to the third, right, as I'm looking at that. Yesterday we talked a little about one of the biggest mistakes that I see people make on 13 is they go, oh, 8 and 4, well, that's 8 divided by 4. 8 divided by 4 is 2. And then I'm going to move the m to the negative 2, and I'm going to move the n to the positive 1. So my answer is 2n over m to the second when I'm taking a look at that. The biggest mistake also that I really want to take a look at is number 14. When I look at number 14, as I look at that, no luck. If you want, I have the negative 6 is to what power? Oh wait, a is to the negative 2. What is the 6 to? Because there's no number right behind the 6. 1. I have d. All the rest of them have powers. Okay. And by the way, this BC, either you have to keep the parenthesis or you have to tell me b squared and c squared. So I'm looking at this problem, and the first question is, Amy, should I move the negative 6 to the denominator? Is it a negative exponent? No. Negative 6 stays in the numerator. I'm going to keep it at negative 6, right? Liv, how about that a to the negative 2? Keep it on top because it's negative, or what do we want to do with those negatives? Negative means to do the reciprocal. So if it's on top with a to the negative 2, I'm going to move it to the bottom and make it a to the second. So that's how I make that reciprocal. That BC, you either have to write it with the parenthesis or you got to be really careful. And I'm not sure if in the back, do they have it as b squared, c squared? Or do they keep the parenthesis? Anyone, when you look in the back, you can kind of take a look and let me know. Do they keep it b squared and c squared? So what they did was they got rid of that parenthesis. If you put this down, bc to the second, that's wrong. But you have to have b to the second and c to the second. That means 2 of them. And then the last thing I have is I'm looking at that mark is I have d to the negative 4 and it's in the denominator. So if I want to make it positive, what do I have to do with it? Key word, that reciprocal word, right? But we're really going to move it how? Move it up, and it's now going to be d to the 4th. Biggest thing that I saw people do is they put the negative 6 on the bottom or they make it positive. Be really careful, that's to the first power as you are taking. When we take a look, it says, if we were going to write these out and expand it, and this is the key thing when you get ready or you're taking the quiz or the test on this, if you don't remember the rules or the shortcuts, use the expanded form. So m to the 4th means I should have how many m's, Kaizen? M to the 4th. 4. So please show me 4 fours. This is our expanded form, right? That's m to the 4th. Times, now I'm going to go m to the 2nd, which, Jared, if I'm looking at, would be how many more? Not 2m, but 2 more m's, right? So m to the 2nd isn't 2m, 2 more m's. And our total m's are 6. Now, this one, we have y to the negative 1. Do you remember what we said our rule was that we're going to do with our exponents? What am I doing with the 4 and 2 to get 6 if I take a look at that? Raise your hand. What am I doing with the 4 and 2 to get 6? Autumn, what are we doing?
Add them.
Add them. So let's look at this one. And instead of writing it out if we were thinking of writing this in expanded form, this would be 1 over y times y times y times y. But we know the rule Autumn just told us was take negative 1 plus 3, which means we are going to have y. Negative 1 plus 3 gives us y to the second. Could I have gotten that same answer by doing it with this expanded way? If I look at this, this would have been over 1. Y over y leaves us 2 y's. Same answer. So when we are taking a look at that shortcut, the shortcut that we are looking at is going to be when the base is the same, we add our exponents. So please write add exponents. Key thing, the base has to be the same and you're multiplying. So I had someone say, well, can't I put this as m to the 4 plus m to the second? No, this is wrong. This is m to the 4 and you are adding the exponents to get m to the 6. Do not change this multiplication to an addition sign. You can't do that. Okay, so you're adding those exponents when you look at it. All right, so this video that we're going to watch is kind of short, but they kind of talk about these rules of our exponents and why we are using these. So I'm going to put that on first. And then
to do this, let's start off by looking at an example. Let's perform a multiplication, and we'll throw in some exponents while we're at it. Let's say that we have 4 squared, and we want to multiply that by 4 to the 4th. So we're taking 4 and squaring it and multiplying it by 4 to the 4th power. Now in order to simplify this problem, let's expand everything out. 4 squared is the same as taking 4 times 4. And 4 raised to the 4th power is the same as multiplying 4 together 4 times. Remember, exponents are just repeated multiplication. The exponent keeps track of how many times you need to multiply that base together. So here we have an exponent of 4, which means we're going to multiply our base together 4 times. So our base of 4 is multiplied together 4 times. Now look, we're taking 4 and multiplying it together 6 times. So we could rewrite this as 4 to the 6th. That means that 4 squared times 4 to the 4th is equal to 4 to the 6th. Now take a look at this. Let's say again that we have 4 squared times 4 to the 4th. You know, if we look at these exponents, 2 plus 4 is 6. So here, what if we rewrote it like this? Having that base of 4 and just taking those exponents and adding them together. So here, 2 plus 4 is 6. And we get 4 to the 6th again, just like we got when we expanded everything out. I wonder if this can work for other examples. In fact, it can. Here, we actually use the product of powers rule to simplify. So let's take a look at that rule. The product of powers rule states,
so that first one you should have filled in.
And for any numbers, n and m, if we have a raised to the m power times a raised to the n power, that's the same thing as a raised to the m plus n power. So here, we would take things that have this.
So when you're in your notes, this is where I was talking about that I need you to put that m plus n when you do it. You're not changing this to addition. You're just adding the exponents and keeping the one base as you look at that.
Same base, and add their exponents together in order to simplify. Now, in order to use the product of powers rule, we must have like bases. So, this base must be the same as this base. If they're different, we cannot use this rule. Now that we've seen the product of powers rule, let's take another example. Here, let's work with some variables. Because yes, the product of powers.
So if we are looking at this one right now in your workbook, and we have just filled in that we have 4 to the 6, and we have a to the m plus n. If I am looking at doing that same thing with that last one, I should, as I am looking at those, Tyler, get x to what power? X to the 8th. So when I'm taking a look at this last one, I'm going to have x to the 8th. So it says when we multiply with the same base, we are blank the exponents to simplify, and you should put in that we are going to add those exponents. And no, I do not need you to show me 3 plus 5. If it helps you to put the 3 plus 5, put that down, but I do not need you to show me that as you are taking a look at it. So, as you look at the top of the next page, it's top of page 12, we are going to be looking, so we just have page 12 to fill in our notes. So I would like you to try these and kind of check with your shoulder partner. What'd you guys get? 7 to the 7th, I agree. If I'm looking at the next one, key thing is I'm looking at that one, Morgan, going to have what? To the what power? 19. And you have to have the parenthesis. Why do I need the parenthesis? Well, my answer is going to be negative either way, but I want to be really clear that I'm taking negative 6 times itself 19 times. That'd be a pretty big number, isn't it? Right? Huge negative number. It would be negative. When I look at this one, so when I look at 24 to the 3rd and 24 to the negative 5. Autumn, what did you guys get?
24 to the negative 7.
Okay, I'm going to leave this. How many of you had that answer? Awesome. But I can't have a negative exponent. So my final answer, I'm going to put this over 1. What is my final correct answer that I have to have, Liv? I could do parentheses, or I could just go 1 over 24 to the 2nd. And I'm okay if you left it like this, so make sure you put this answer. I agree, this is right, but on the quiz, I'm going to tell you no negative exponent, okay? So I had 24 to the negative 2, that means I have to put it in the denominator and make it positive, okay? Yes?
Martha, did you put in like parentheses 24 and to the negative 2?
Like this?
No, like 24 to the negative.
I can't have a negative exponent in my answer, okay? So I would either take one of these 2 answers, but I wouldn't want this one, okay? I would take one of these 2. That's what I'm going to be looking for when I look at your answers. Okay, so I would take this one or this one. Don't want to have a negative. Although, like today, I'm okay with that. I'm looking at all of the 9s. And Brad, I ended up with 9 to the what? 0. And I saw some people only had this. Only had 1. I agree. It is 1. So you want to make sure that it's not 9 to the 1, it's 9 to the 0, because all of these added to 0 and then that you put 1. Questions? Okay, we're going to look at that last page. So the last page, they get a little trickier, as you will see in your homework also. So when we take a look at this first one, we have 4z to the 5th times 9z to the negative 12. Rewrite your numbers first. That is 4 to the 1st, so 4 times 9. Then I'm going to regroup it and put 7 to the 5th and z to the 5th and z to the negative 12. I'm going to show my work going down. When you do your work, if you do it kind of on the same on the workbook going down. So 4 times 9, if I'm looking at that, that gives us 36. I'm going to have 36, and I'm adding these 2 together. So when I add those 2 together, Carson, I'm going to have 5 plus negative 12, negative 7. So right now, I have 36 then to what exponent, if there's no exponent behind the 36? Nothing there. To get 36, I take 36 to the, that makes sense, that first power. So I have all of this and I can't have a negative exponent. So Maddox, I can't have a negative exponent. My final answer is going to be 36. And say it one more time. 1 to the 7th. Wait, this z, am I going to keep it just in the numerator? Where do I want to move it? I can just move it to the denominator and it's going to be z to the 7th. This is my answer I'm taking a look at. I will sometimes have some people tell me, well, could I leave it as 36 times 1 over z to the 7th? Well, yes, but 36 over 1 and like to multiply that, we probably want to leave our answer as 36 over z to the 7th. So what we're going to do as we start this next one, we want to rearrange and put all of our numbers. So Brad, if I'm putting all my numbers, I'm going to go with what? Wait. 2 times 9 times 3. None of those are to a power, right? That's 2 to the first, 9 to the first. 2 times 9 times 3. I'm going to multiply those. Now, I don't care what order you multiply them. Some of you might want to multiply 6 times 9 because you know that. Some of you might go, oh, 27 times 2. Does it matter which order you multiply these in? Or you can just put them all in your calculator, right? So when I multiply the numbers, I end up with 54. Okay? Now I'm going to put all of my A's. So I want to group it with my A's as I'm looking at this. Okay? So Kira, I'm going to have A to the what? The first A was A to the what power? A to the first. Then I have another A, which is to what power? A to the second. And then I have the B to the fourth. Okay? So when I have my 2 A's, A to the first and A to the second, I'm going to end up with A to the third. I have nothing else with the B, right? So I just keep it as B to the fourth. And my answer is 54, A to the third, B to the fourth. You're going to do the regrouping. Show it. It's so easy to put it all in your calculator, but then if you make a mistake, at least I see how you did it. Okay? So we're looking at that next one. So Kale, we're going to put our numbers down first, and we're going to have what? Then we're going to put our variables. So I'm going to put t to the, and t to the negative 3. Could I have moved the t's right away? Sure. I don't have to, but I could have. Okay? So Jared, we're going to keep going. 4 times 2 gives us 8. And I add t to the negative 5 times t to the negative 3. If I'm adding those two together, I'm going to get t to the negative 8. All that's over 1. Morgan, can't have negative exponents, so my final answer would be 8 over t to the what? About 8. Does that make sense? Okay. 5 plus 3. And could you have moved the t's earlier and put them on the bottom? Sure. Whichever way you want. So it's kind of, you're starting to combine a lot of different rules as we look at these. Okay. So as we look at that next one, Isabel, we want to put all of our numbers first. Help me out. Start with me. What should I write down? Negative 4 times what? 7 and one more, 2. Okay? If you need your calculator, put it all in your calculator, right? Jonathan, we're going to put our variables next, and we're going to put all of our c's. So we're going to put c to the what first? C to the third. What other c do I have? Negative 2. And then I have, what else, Jonathan? D to the second. So when we multiplied all those numbers, negative 28 times 2, 14 times negative 4, we ended up with a negative 56. You put it in your calculator, that's okay too. If I'm looking at my c powers, Autumn, what am I going to end up with? C to the 1, and I have D to the 2, right? So my answer, should I move the negative 56 to the denominator? It's negative. Yes? No?
Yes.
Yes. No. Some say yes, some say no.
Maybe no.
Is it a negative exponent? Then don't move it. Negative numbers are okay. It's okay to be negative even though we prefer people to be positive. 56c d to the second, right? Only negative exponents move down, not negative numbers. Okay? So please try that last one right now and kind of check it out.
Yeah.
Okay? So if we're looking at that last one, our answer had to be
45 by the x by the 7th power and y to the 6th power.
yes. Questions? So homework tonight, as you are taking a look. So you have this 4A that we are working on, so page 41. Again, I haven't checked Green Box this week, but this one is asking you, when you look at these first ones, to complete the blank. You don't have to put it in the box. Write it behind it a little bigger so I can see your answer. So when I look at number 1, it says 10 to the 7th and 10 to the 2nd. That's going to be 10 to the 9. So just put, if you are looking at that, just put a 9 so that I can read it and you can read it. It doesn't have to fill in that bottom, right? When you get to some of these later ones, like in number 8 and number 10, think about rearranging. Put your numbers first. So the 8 times -5. Then put your h's. H to the second, h to the -4. And just keep showing your work and check as you are going, right? So 10 looks a little ugly, but think about what your rules are. Look at number 12 right now. In number 12, you have these both in your denominator. Since they're both being multiplied in the denominator, let's add them together. What is, if we are looking at that, -8 plus 3? That's going to give us 1 over n to the negative what? -8 plus 3 gives us -5. But we can't have a negative exponent. So now you got to rewrite it with the positive, right? So it's in the denominator. You need to move it as you are taking a look at it.